This episode is brought to you by our High Performance Father Coaching Program, where we help men juggle business, marriage, and fatherhood to create the greatest balance and impact life has to offer. This is done with our philosophy that is at the core of achieving these phenomenal results in family, self, and service. And that is investing in yourself first so you can be a true 100% for yourself, but just as importantly, for those around you that you love and care about. If you're a father struggling with choosing between your work and your family, lacking balance and connection in your relationship, what your children need, your own needs, whilst building prosperity in your business, head over to highperformancefather.com, fill out the form, and I'll have my coaches contact you to see how we can help you. And if you're a good fit, what it looks like to join the winner's circle on the inside. But for now, take the time to yourself, for yourself, and enjoy this episode. Here we are. Welcome to a special episode. We've got a very special guest with us. His name is Ren. Is it Cheney? It's not Cheney, surely.
The Wogs pronounce it Cheney. The skippies pronounce it Cheney.
That's right. I was going to say, being half Italian, Ren, I knew that the C has a hidden H next to it. But we've got Ren Cheney, one of our amazing HPF members. And the reason why I say the word amazing is because this man has created some phenomenal transformations in his journey of just under 4 months with us, which has been incredible to say the least. And I really appreciate you, Ren, coming on and sharing your story first and foremost, mate. So thank you for being here.
No problem. Happy to be here, mate.
It's great because I love this sort of stuff where you men listening to this, members, I love this stuff, Ren, because we haven't done this for a little while and we've got plenty of guys to bring on. But, like yourself and your story, the members on the inside, man, this is going to jack them up. This is what I love about the tribe. It's like, yeah, there's Ren. He's fucking killing it. Now we're sharing his story. And then for the guys on the outside listening to this or watching this, you're going to get some insights into what a winner looks like and how a winner actually carves it out from A to B. And that's what we're going to go through with Ren's story. And the biggest thing I love about this is what I was mentioning earlier, Ren, is it comes from a different voice. You guys don't have to just listen to me, this podcast, HPF, everything. I'm just a cog in the wheel, and having someone, incredibly strong man, a very successful businessman who dominates in that area of service, but guess what? Family and self is looked after as well, is something that a lot of you men should be modeling yourself towards. So strap in, lads, listening to this or watching, make sure you pay attention and use this as a driver to help you pull yourself out of what might be a cycle, a rut, or a pit, which has led to possibly some inevitable downfalls if you don't do something about it. But Ren, love having you here, man. Talk to me. Let's start. We'll talk about HPF and your results shortly, as we will, because we like getting clear on the facts, and the facts are great. But share a bit of your history, your story, some of your background, mate. And
right, yeah. Well, I was born in Malta, which is a little tiny island just south of Sicily, south of Italy. Parents moved over here when I was just over a year old. $150 in Dad's wallet. Could barely speak English. Dad had a job. Second day they were here in Australia. That was in New South Wales, and they progressed from there. I'm an only child. Mum had quite a few miscarriages and that there. And when they moved over here, they just sort of wanted to try and grow their wealth and didn't worry about growing the family anymore. Mum comes from a family of 13, and Dad a family of 5. No TVs over there at that stage.
Definitely not.
Yeah, that's it. Anyway, so grew up in the outer suburbs of Sydney, I guess you could call it, an area called Lendilo, which is sort of like a small farming, very woggy sort of area. And then just as I started high school, we moved to Queensland. Dad continued in small crop farming and stuff like that, and expanded a bit up here. But I guess grew up in a very traditional household. Dad was a very hard taskmaster. A little bit of background on my old man. His mum died when he was just under 3. His dad went off to the military, pretty much dropped him on his sister's porch and said, take care of him, And, and that was that. So he never really saw much love or compassion or anything like that. And to be honest with you, I haven't seen fuck all of it either from him. He's a top bloke and taught me amazing work ethic and skills, life skills. Like I could weld and do anything just about in a shed that you could nearly do by the age of 12 and all that sort of thing. And but yeah, he mum can't drive, and I guess was pretty lucky that she couldn't, and that there, because I reckon she probably would have left if, well, that generation probably wouldn't, very not very easy. They just seem to soldier on. But yeah, I guess I saw Dad treat Mum pretty harsh, pushed her to work. He didn't see a lot of love to even me or Mum over the years, me growing up at home. And all that sort of thing. And I unknowingly, I guess, modelled myself after him. When I got serious with my now wife, when I was 22, my wife and I started going out. Tasha's her name, and we were hopelessly in love within a few months. I guess, it's funny. Once I like, the passion was there and everything like that, and we were close and had fun and all that sort of thing, and that. But once I got married, it's like a switch went off in my head, and I just became so focused on work, creating wealth, creating a legacy for the family, and the kids that we hadn't even had yet, But it was in my mind to try and create what was drummed into me growing up, I stopped being fun. I stopped being the fun guy that Tash fell in love with, and pretty much threw myself. We started our own business. I started off as a plumber. Did my plumbing apprenticeship. I was sort of halfway, 3/4 of the way through it when I met Tash, and then straight away, as soon as I could, jumped into business, because I already had a fair client base around the town. And we fired up our own business, and it went from, in the space of 2 years, just phenomenal growth. Went from myself, an apprentice, and one tradesman to 22 staff, and equipment. I've always had a passion for trucks and a liking for trucks and machinery. So we had diggers, we had bobcats, and all that sort of stuff. And I was very naive in business. My parents never really taught me a business background. They just work was basically what they taught me. And all that sort of thing. And and then the good old GFC hit back in 2009, late 2008, early 2009, and I, unbeknown to me, thinking because we had work coming out, hell less than crooked coming at us, and what's the name? We had a fair bit of debt at the time, machinery, equipment, sheds, that we got into, and all this sort of stuff, and the work sort of just stopped, when all that panic hit with the global markets and all that sort of thing, and the banks. And we had 3 really big builders that we were committed to, and they owed us a fair amount of coin. And I'm talking like hundreds of thousands. They just vanished in the space of a few months of each other. One dropped off the perch, and another. And I found work out west, and wasn't really where you wanted to be. It was a fair way in the middle of nowhere, but there was a ton of work out there. And out of the 22 blokes that worked for me, 4 came with me, and I looked after those fellas, and we hit it out there. My bank manager actually told me, "You can't come back from this." And I said, "All righty, eh?" And I leant over his desk, and I looked him in the eye. I said, "You just keep the wolves off me for 3 months and we'll book a meeting." And came back in 3 months, and he couldn't believe how we'd generated so much work and income, and we got ourselves out of trouble. And I did that. It's funny, I did that, and looking back now, after what I've been through with HPF and the self-growth that I've been through and developed, I kind of did all that, thinking I did all that on my own. I know I had the workers with me, but I did it without my wife's support, unbeknown to me. So what I'm trying to say is, like, she ended up moving down to be with me down there, and we had 2 little girls at that time. They weren't even in school yet. And and she came down. That was great. But I never confided in her the struggles I was going through mentally, because we had a really nice house back home and stuff like that, and a couple of acres, and really good business. And all of a sudden, I'm down out in the middle of nowhere, working my ass off 7 days a week, 24 hours, 7 days a week, sort of 12, 15-hour days at times, and in mongrel cold weather or bloody hot weather. But anyway, we got through it, and she stuck by me the whole time. And then fast forwarding a bit, about 2012, 13, I sort of got with another builder that we moved back to the area. We moved back to Bundy, and a builder that I used to work for many years ago. He took me under his wing because he was short staffed, and started showing me different skills, carpentry skills and stuff like that. And he encouraged me. I guess I developed the talent really quickly with him, and he encouraged me to do an apprenticeship with him, mature age apprenticeship, and I did. And we got through that quite well. And I ended up sort of taking his business clients on. He wanted to retire. He was getting on in his mid to late 60s, and sort of took on his client base and went from there. And the business just grew from there phenomenally. You know, it got going really well, and it's still going today. And and then we've got 3 girls, one age 9, one age 13, one age 15. They're doing really well. But I guess how do you put it? I'd never opened up. I was never a talker. I bottled all emotions up, whether it be my own insecurities or fears I had or anything like that. I didn't talk to Tash at all. I just bottled it up. And I guess I unleashed it. I knew I couldn't unleash it on workers, the frustrations or what emotions I had bottled up, because they'd leave. You know what I mean? You can only treat workers pretty hard only for so long, and they'll tell you to stick it after a while. And I knew I needed them, so you'd pander to their requirements, you know what I mean? And you bite your tongue and all that sort of thing. But, I was coming home and not even knowingly I was, the whole family was walking on eggshells. When I'd roll in the driveway, they'd be like, oh, I wonder what mood Dad's in, you know, and I'd walk in the house and, you know, if the house was a bit of a mess or something like that, if Tash had a rough day because I hadn't checked in through the day or something like that, I'd start having a go at her. I'd be like, what the fuck's going on here? Like, why is the house a fucking mess? Like, what have you been doing all day? And, and whatever. And I didn't know that, I probably said it even harsher than that, to be honest, and all that sort of thing. And if I'd be sitting at the table and the kids dropped a fork or spilt a drink or whatever they may have done, it would set me off. And the youngest one would usually start crying, unfortunately, because, she didn't like anyone being angry. Everyone else would be like walking on eggshells, all that sort of thing, and just made the whole scene really fucked, and all that sort of thing. And and then I'd get up from having tea and I'd either go back in the office and be replying to emails and or quoting or doing contracts. I'd be working till 9, 10 o'clock at night. Or the other habit I had was I'd just jump on bloody social media and sedate myself, basically, just tune out. Which was a total fucking waste of time. And the other thing I started doing too, which was probably the biggest reason my wife and I had, ended up having time apart, was I guess women started, they'd start, like someone might send you a like or a message on Facebook or Messenger or Insta, or I'd send a like, and it starts from there, and conversations start, and you start building what would be just some simple, innocent messaging would slowly turn into a bit of flirting, and then before you know it, you're in some sort of emotional cheating affair on just through messages. And I didn't even know I was bloody doing it. And Tash fronted me on that one day, and she said, "What's the go of all these messages to different women?" And I'm like, "They don't mean fuck all to me," I'd say to her. But she'd say to me, "Look, they're hurtful." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, but they don't mean shit," And she'd be like, "But they're hurtful." And I'm like, "Okay." I brushed it off, and I didn't realise till I went through what I've been through that I was chasing the ego boosts. Just my own insecurities in myself. Just probably not feeling enough, not feeling like I was attractive or whatever. And then you were chasing that outside affirmation where, in reality, I should have been getting it from my wife, or I should have been looking for it from my wife. But whenever she tried to give me that or boost me up or anything like that, I shut it down. I didn't let it in. It was, quite strange. I don't know why I was so closed off to it. But anyway, and then I guess the shit hit the fan late or about August, September, about a year ago, I guess, last year, when one of my clients started to get a little bit too friendly with me, and I went to shut it down, and she reached out again, and I thought, oh, well, it's only a bit of innocent play, and she overstepped the mark a little bit with me, and what's her name? and Tash found out about it, and she wasn't impressed. And anyway, we had a pretty heated discussion about it and all that sort of thing. And yeah, she what's her name? She processed it, and we talked, and I thought things were going okay. And we actually sought a bit of counselling too for a few months. And in myself, I knew we weren't making headway in the counselling because the bloody appointments were too far apart. Fair enough, counsellors are busy, but you might see her 2 weeks in a row, and that was okay. You feel like you're making some ground, and then you might not see her for 6 to 8 weeks, and it's just felt like you're back to square one. And anyway, wasn't until around about it might have been March, April this year, I discovered that Tash had been messaging someone online. It was no one local. It was all overseas stuff, like Instagram crap, messages, and it hit me like a truck. It fucking floored me. I'd never had one complaint from Tash, and anyway, she like the whole 20 years we've been together, and we've been married 18 this October, and we were together 2 years prior to that. Anyway, and we had a big talk about it, and she said, look, you know what you've put me through over the last few years? And I'm like, yeah, I still struggled to see it. I was still like pretty dirty at her. I was still being very close-minded and stubborn that she'd gone down this road. And she like, what? She said, the shit I've said to this other fella, she said, I've tried to tell you for so many years and you didn't want to hear it. And I'm like, yeah, rightio. So I honestly didn't even remember her trying to tell me. And I must have been so shut off in my mind, Anyway, that all stopped, and then you could feel the disconnection between us starting to grow. It was starting to, it was different in bed. She wasn't, she's normally a very big cuddler, and that in bed, and you just feel the disconnection growing and growing and growing. And I started to get a bit desperate, I guess. I thought, I'm losing this girl. The fuck do I do here? And we stepped up the counselling, but I could tell that Tash had already made her mind that she checked out. She was pretty much done in the relationship, and anyway, it was just after Mother's Day, and she said, I need to talk to you. I knew what was coming, and we sat down, and she said, I don't think I have any love for you anymore, and I don't love you anymore. I said, I could feel it. I wasn't even shocked, and I'm like, yeah, rightio. And I said, that's fair enough, and it was hard to hear, and we sat down and spoke to the kids the next day and explained to them that Mum's going to have some time away, and she went and stayed with her parents, and we weren't sure how long that was going to be for. I wasn't even sure if she was ever coming back. And anyway, long story short, she was over there. She was at her parents, and what's her name? Things had gotten a bit messy. A few of my friends that I'd been, fairly close to over the years. I guess when the chips are down, or when you're in a shit place, you realise how many good mates you really got, And a couple of them, or one in particular, got in my ear and said, "Right, you need to fuck her off. You need to, if she's left you, she's no good, and this and that." And he was pushing me to, get financial settlement happening and all this sort of shit. And we're talking like excess of a couple of mil all up of different assets and bits and pieces, and so it wasn't like just a house block and a house and you just go your separate ways. A business in there as well. It gets very messy. And anyway, so I sort of started the ball rolling there, and the lawyer I was instructed to speak to, she was an older lady, and she actually said to me, she said, "Ren," she said, "Do you still love this woman?" And I said, "Absolutely, I do." And I said, "But she doesn't love me." She said, "Hang on, you still love her?" I said, "Yeah." And she said, "You're very emotional. I can feel it. I can hear it in your voice." And she said, "If I can instruct you," she said, "I know that you want to get this all sorted." But she said, "The other question I've got for you," she said, "is your wife pushing you for settlement?" I said, "No, actually the opposite. Tash doesn't want to settle. Tash left with no money in her purse. She still had access to our bank accounts and stuff like that. That was all joint signatory. And she still did work every day for the business because she was our bookkeeper. And she said, listen, she said, I'd instruct you to just cool your heels, just settle down, let your emotions settle down before you start making some decisions you'll regret. I said, yeah, rightio. So I stopped talking to the old mate that was giving me that was pushing me to get this all cracking. And I basically ignored his calls for a while there and started to try and get my head in the game. And it was a pretty rough couple of months. I'll probably say 4 to 6 weeks. And I went through highs and lows like you wouldn't believe. One night I got that low. I'd almost spoken to Tash, almost every day. And one night I didn't have the kids with me, and I was having a shocker of a night. I was just petrified that she was going to meet this shining knight in shining armor, and I'd lose her forever. And all that sort of thing. And one night there I got that bloody low. A 12 gauge was loaded. I'd actually picked the spot on the property, and I was in the process of trying to write goodbye notes to my old man and Tash's old man, so that they could be, that was the first note I was going to write, that they could be the best dads possible for the girls. And I couldn't even finish one note. I'd gotten too emotional, and it was late in the evening, and I ended up saying, fuck it, I'll put the 12 gauge away. And I ended up putting the 12 gauge away and bloody, went to bed. And the only person I heard from that night was Tash. She rang me to see if I was all right. And, I hadn't even told, like, she had no idea what I was doing. But, anyway, and I got to admit, I wasn't super nice to her, when she rang. And, but anyway, next morning, it was a new day. And we went from there, and maybe a week or two might have gone past after that. And I don't know where or how the hell I stumbled across it, but somewhere along the line, I've either clicked on a HPF ad or seen it, or an email. It wouldn't have been an email, but I reckon it was on socials, and I honestly can't remember if it was Facebook or Insta or what it was. And I'm a huge skeptic, like we get emails every fucking day of people that want us to, look at our website or improve things or join this or do that, and I normally always just fuck them off. But for some reason or another, I clicked on it and followed the prompts and everything like that. And lo and behold, either the next day or that evening, one of the coaches rang me, and I was as honest as I could be, as honest as probably I've ever been, actually, and spoke to him, told him everything straight off the cuff. And he said, yeah, mate, he said, we can help you. And I said, rightio. And I listened to some podcasts that he'd sent me. And holy fucking hell, one of them in particular, I can't remember which one it was now, but it was like I was listening to the mirror talking back to me. It was, the chap the podcast I was listening to, I made it just about live my life, I reckon. And it was the first time in my life I'd ever heard something like that, I guess. It was phenomenal. It rattled me. And I'm like, holy fucking hell. And then I spent the rest of that evening listening to him and trying to understand him, and I'd listen to him again, and I'd write down notes, and 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 the first thing I wanted to do once I had these revelations and realizations in out of all this, and I'd written notes, and I'm like, fuck yeah, I've been doing those sort of fuck ups and and all this sort of thing. And I was actually straight away messaging Tash. I'd be like, hey, this, and this, and she'd be like, yeah, that's right. You have been doing that. And then, and all this sort of thing. And anyway, the journey started there, I guess. And it was with Zach and a couple other coaches there that I'd been dealing with. And Tash and I had started talking. I was still up and down like a yo-yo with emotions, but she started to see a bit of change in me. And anyway, then, it was before I'd stepped it up and moved to your level, Alex, and that there. And we'd sat down and had a few chats, Tash and I had. And I don't know, part of me sort of sensed that blokes were circling, to move in on to ask her out and all that sort of thing. And she reckoned that, no one was, but it was just a gut feeling I had, And anyway, that's when, one of the coaches I was talking to said, listen, do you want to step it up to the platinum level and deal direct with Alex? And I said, you know what? I was a little bit hesitant at the time because I'd actually, in my whole life, had never spent money on myself in that way. Never, you know what I mean? Never invested in myself in any way, shape or form like that, you know. And didn't think I needed, you know, and yeah, I'm fucking glad I did. Hang on, someone's trying to ring me.
Wasn't it isn't it crazy, Ren? Like that's a not to butt in, mate. You can speak for the whole 2 hours if you like, but I'll just listen. I'm enjoying hearing some things that, you know what? Either A, little nuances that I didn't know, or B, stuff that I'm remembering you talking about, like that 12 gauge. It's so fucking crazy, isn't it, man? Like, think about that. You were that close, 3 beautiful daughters. I mean, even when you spoke about your daughter then, like the 15-year-old, that means she was born just before the GFC hit as well. So you would have been, and we'll talk about how you got to where you were, but you would have been under the pump, man. I'm a newfound father. I've got to keep pushing here. I've got to stay alive. I need to move west. And that's coming off the back of having a father who was dropped off at a few years of age, who lost his mother, and his father went to the military. Was doing the best with what he was dealt with, and probably led to, I mean, as you know now, because you're a pretty aware and intelligent man. Like, especially you've got great emotional intelligence, so it's definitely leveled up since we worked together. There were obviously things that he didn't give you that became a pattern, which then became the downfall inevitably of your marriage, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember asking him before Tash had our first baby, and I said, Dad, I said, I'm about to become a father. I said, any advice? What do I do here? And he said, all you got to do is fucking work and provide. He said, she's the mother. He said, she'll look after it just like your mother looked after you. He said, make sure they got a roof over their head, money in the bank and a good car, and able to put food on the table. She'll be fucking right. And I said, oh, okay. You know, and even before, actually going back a few years before, what's her name? He said, we were getting married, and I said, asked him a similar thing. You know, we were there having a yarn, and I said, getting married, Dad. I said, any advice? You know, and that there, he said, well, you saw how I was with your mother. I've had no fucking problems. He said, just do what I've done. You know, basically, and all that sort of thing. And I'm like, wow, yeah, right. Looking back, I'm like, holy fuck.
Didn't you have a chat though with them, and then your mum was bringing everything up in front of him? I remember you telling me.
Oh yeah. It was only because when Tash left, they took it really hard, and you know, they're like, why did you reach out to other women, and why this, why that? You know, you basically fucked it all up. And I'm like, hang on. And I hadn't had the revelation of what I hadn't joined all the dots yet about how this all came to be. And now I'm not blaming my parents. I know the buck stops with me, but I guess you become, as you grow up, what you see. You know what I mean, and what you grow up with. And I've realised that a lot through HPF, seeing other fathers go through their journeys and stuff like that. And I'll tell you what, the apple don't fall far from the tree, as the saying goes. And then one day my parents were here. Tash had already moved out, and they're giving me the 3rd degree. They're grilling me. And I'm like, hang on, cunts. I said, sit the fuck down and let me give you a bit of history here. And I rattled off. I opened the vault with him, and I rattled off half a dozen times when I was growing up and we were still in Sydney that Mum would come and I was, young, under 8 years old, for sure. Mum would come and bawl her eyes out by the foot of my bed because she wasn't game to go into the bedroom and be with Dad because of how what's her name, he would treat her, you know, and all that sort of thing. And and bloody and all that sort of thing. And yeah, it was very rough. You know, hang on, someone's getting back to me. But yeah, there we go. And so yeah, you know, Mum would do that, and just trying to think. Oh, that's right. I used to be really good at little A's and soccer and all that sort of thing when we lived down south. And old man would blow up about, you know, having to lose work time to take me to tournaments or competitions and all that sort of thing. And he goes, "Oh, you fucking bring home a little fucking trophy. What's the fucking point?" You know, and she'll be picking zucchinis in the paddock, you know, or, you know, we got fucking cauliflowers to pick or this or that, you know. And I'm like, yeah, right, yeah. You know,
that's tough, man.
Oh, yeah. Well, like I say, all he fucking knew was work. And, you know, and yeah, look, he's in his late 70s now, and it was only a few months ago he had a pretty big heart attack, and no bullshit, he had a near-death experience. He was pretty much fucked on the table, but he came back. And so the hospital staff told us, and now they're selling up they're fucking scaling down big time, selling all the property. And I've never seen him. Tash and I have caught him kissing mum in the kitchen here and cuddling her. And I'm like, where the fuck was this 30 years ago? So yeah, it's like a near-death experience for him to fucking wake up and all that sort of thing. But yeah, like when I put them in their place, and mum was in tears, not about how I was speaking, but everything coming to light. She's like, yeah, she said, because she's like, I said, Dad, you used to do this to mum, and she'd work like two blokes, all day, as hard as two men, and you'd fucking cut her down and tell her to go and cook tea and this and that, and mum was nodding her head saying, you're dead right, and women of this generation today fucking wouldn't put up with that shit. They were built pretty tough back in those days, I guess, the old nunners.
Yeah, it's tough though when like you said, as you grow up you become what you see. That's a really powerful revelation, mate. It really is. And then you convert that into just getting stuck in the chaos of life, and all of a sudden, Ren, you're building businesses, building big business, and providing for your family, and doing things that is modeling what you saw in your father, including your attitude and whatnot. And then, like you said, you think that it's just you and no one helped you, or I was the lone wolf, or I'm self-made. But essentially, your wife was there for you because she could have left fucking ages ago, but she didn't as well. So it's really interesting.
I'm amazed that she didn't.
Yeah, it is.
Amazing.
But,
yeah. And so anyway, and then back to the story where I joined HPF, and I upped the membership, or however you want to word it, to work one-on-one with Alex, with yourself there. That's when I felt within myself, we had to accelerate this, or I was going to lose her. You know what I mean? And I didn't want any mongrels to get their mitts on her. You know what I mean? Or anything like that. And anyway, it was phenomenal how I started to feel the change in me. Like I used to, like when we had a lot of staff, like we had 20, 22 staff there at some point, and I'm not a big burly guy or anything like that, but I had some blokes that were working for me that were twice my size. And I never believed in anxiety. I never believed in depression. I used to march up to blokes. I knew I was fucking ace at my trade. You know what I mean? I was very, very confident in my work. Probably too fucking confident. But, and I would cut blokes down. I didn't care how fucking big they were. If they fucked up their job and they were employed to do a job, I would cut them down. I'd reduce some decent-sized fellas to fucking tears, and I would just tell them they were a pussy. I'm like, you harden the fuck up and just get the job done, for Christ's sakes, And they'd be anxious, or they'd be going through something, and I had no compassion for them. In actual fact, back then, and I'm talking like back in late 2000s there, 2007 or 8, I'd actually get a kick out of fucking reducing these big fuckers down to nothing. You know what I mean? And Tash would shake her head at me if I spooked about it. She'd be like, "Shouldn't treat blokes like that." I'm like, "Oh well, they're useless cunts." I used to say, and now with the employees I have these days, I can sense that, and not just employees, subbies, whoever, even mates. You can tell when something's off. My radar's up, I guess, where before I wouldn't even acknowledge it. I wouldn't even sense it. Where now I'm like, you okay? You want to talk about anything? I'd say to them, is there something on your mind? What's the go? And it was a bit of an adjustment for one of the fellas that's worked for me for the last couple of years, because he's like, you're phenomenal now. Like you've gone from a pretty hard taskmaster to someone that actually cares and will take time to show me something properly, and not just throw me in the deep end and hope you swim, sort of thing. And all that sort of thing. And so it's been a real big change for me in a lot of ways, in a lot of good ways. And nothing. I can't say a damn bad thing about HPF. It's in how it's affected me, or worked with me, or changed me, because it's not only brought my marriage back to where it should be. It's the relationship with the kids. They're still getting surprised even today. Like last night, we the daughter worked from 5 till 9, so Tash and I decided to have a bit of H&H time, as we call it. And we caught up with our daughter at her work, because we had to buy a few things from where she works, and And when we were on the drive home, she said that even her work colleagues said, how cool is your dad? You know, like he was in here cracking a few jokes, you know, telling you this and that and saying what a great job you're doing and blah, blah, blah. And he walked out holding your mum's hand and they were laughing and cuddling. And I'm like, right, I didn't even know I was doing it, you know. But, so, yeah, so it's good to see that they're seeing it. Mates are noticing it, you know, and I've culled off the fuckhead mates that weren't in my corner when the chips were down. And, yeah, I guess when you have a big when your life gets tipped upside down and you know who your mates are real quick and the ones that you don't need in your life that you work out pretty quick, the ones that are fake, you know.
Yeah, and that's why I love like the environment of HPF. Like I love connecting to every man on the inside and helping them where they're at. Obviously, I remember us having this conversation and I was like, Ren, man, you're in a time-sensitive position. And you speak about like, we talk about investing and we talk about this in various podcasts and whatnot, but like you said before, you had millions of dollars of assets. And so the question I always ask men, if they're curious or they're not sure if it's something that they value or think they should be doing is, okay, what's the opportunity cost? What's it going to cost you if you don't do something? And it's always way fucking worse. They just bury their head in the sand, Ren, or they don't see it, you know?
It's funny. Like I opened up one of my subbies there. He's a little bit younger than me. Same thing. They got 3 kids, and he's like, "What did you spend with HPF?" And I rattled off a figure, and he said, "Oh fuck, I wouldn't spend that." I said, "What did your boat cost you that you bought last year?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, it cost me about that much." I said, "Will that fucking thing save your marriage?" and he goes, "No." I said, "How many times are you taking your missus on the boat with you?" And he goes, "Oh. Well, she never fucking asked," he said. I said, "Well, do you think she might be a bit resentful when you go fishing with your mates and come back all fucking blind and smelly and all this sort of stuff?" You know, I said, "Look, it was a drop in the ocean compared to what I would have had to lose." You know what I mean? So, yeah, I said, and in all honesty, money didn't once I got my head in the game and I knew I wanted to get my wife back and I knew I wanted to rectify my marriage and get all that back where it should be, money didn't factor into it. Assets didn't factor into it. I didn't give a fuck, actually. I wanted sort myself out was priority one. I knew by doing that, she'd come back. I was very confident she'd come back. And then the kids would all be drawn to us and they'd be happy again. Because it's funny, as soon as I started to talk to her differently, let her know how I was feeling, things I was changing in myself, all these little things I was saying, and half the time I didn't even know I was saying it. You know, it was just we were making conversation and we'd just talk and this and that. And she'd be like, "Wow, you're really changing." I'm like, "Yeah, fucking oath." And it took her, and she's probably still a little bit guarded now, and not. She's probably still got a little bit more growth to go, you know, before we get right back to fucking 200%, putting in 100 each. Which is, look, I was a cunt when we broke up. I unleashed some fury, and I was messed up. I'll say that. So there's a bit of hurt that's no doubt healing and stuff like that. But the poor bugger. I should have never. I wished I'd have joined, honestly, HPF 5 or 10 years ago, so it never got to the where it got to.
At least you're here though, mate. That's the hard part, isn't it? Because you look at, like, just like we're talking about, even around maybe a perspective around finances and whatnot. It's like your mate sharing the story with the boat. Like, at least you're here, and look at the results, man. You had your wife who was in contact with other men. Things looked like they were dissolving to the point where you got a 12 gauge and you're contemplating finishing this time round. And that's some pretty crazy heavy shit to then go into having your love life flourishing to the point where I look forward to catching up with you and Tash and doing a Zoom and just it's awesome, because I love being part of seeing the success and the story of these men in their, and not just in their marriages, but in their life, because that's an important part of your life. It's an important part of your children's. This is the foundation for the environment, and guys will want to hang on to their boats or they'll join when it's too late or they'll never join. And it's like, okay, that's cool. Like, you don't like money. The funny part about money, Ren, is it circulates. Like, it's useless until it's used. So it's going to fucking be used for something anyway. But when they don't use it on themselves, that's not my problem. And that's not a bad thing. Just as long as you're happy, you put your fucking hand up and go, yeah, no, this is where my life is now. It's 5 years later. Everything's torn to shit. My wife left. Everything's fallen apart. But no, I'm happy because this is the choice I made. We know that they're obviously not. But you know my point, Ren. Like, it's a pretty firm line that I take where it's like, okay, don't do anything, but make sure you fucking own all of the outcome, because as men, we need to lead first and foremost inside of ourselves first. And is that what I mean, you said that was the first step. So we're talking about breaking this down for these guys now, like specifically what happened and changed. It started, didn't it, Ren, with you actually working on yourself, man, getting your head right, yourself, your routines, and actually starting to focus on you first, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Before I joined HPF, I was having I'd had it about 4 or 5 times. I'd had a recurring fucking dream that, and it was almost carbon copy dream every night. I couldn't, like, if I came to bed, this is obviously when things were pear-shaped with me and the missus, and I could not get to sleep some nights. I would come in, I would just try and exhaust myself in my work. It could be anything from book work to out in the shed welding or doing whatever. I was not eating. I was drinking half a bottle of fucking whiskey to get to sleep, to just wipe myself out almost, you know what I mean? It was fucked. And I was having a recurring dream every night that I'd get up out of my bed, I'd walk into my ensuite, the mirror would become a see-through window, and I'd see Tash with someone else, and I'd be punching into the glass to try and break it, screaming for him to stop, and till my arms were all bloody, my hands were all bloody, and I'd wake up in a ball of sweat in the bed, and no one's fucking here, nothing's happened, but it was just your subconscious or whatever, however they it is, but none of that happened, but it was like, that's how fucked up I was, you know what I mean? But yeah, and then once I got on the level with HPF, and I just basically said, righto, this is the road we're going down. It rang true to me. I was like, righto, let's give this a good crack, because I'd never done anything like that in my life, or anything like that. Got on the on the Mojo and the Night Rider and the protein powder, and following and got into training actually too. Got out of the rut I was in, cut out the drinking. Not fucked it off completely at that time, but just dropped it back to fuck all. Started eating good again too. Spoke to Ken. I've spoken to just about all the fellas that at HPF there that you threw at me, and they're all decent blokes, and got on a really good program, because I wasn't even eating enough. I didn't even realise, I told him my routine. He's like, hang on, you eat that little bit, and you run on coffee till 11, and then you have a feed at 11, and it sounds like a fucking kid's feed, because I just scoffed it down and run. And he said, then you come home and late at night and have a big steak and whatever. And I said, yeah. He said, yeah, you got to change that, son. And I'm like, righto, no worries. And and now I've adjusted things. Like when the day will allow me, depending on our schedule. And I've restructured the business too, because I was taking on fuckloads of work myself and running myself into the ground and expecting too much of my staff that were working for me at the time, and they're still here. So I've restructured things, delegated different blokes in different areas, and freed myself up, where now I can, structure the day where I can ring, because obviously Tash has moved back in now and everything like that. I can ring Tash and be like, hey, it's 10:30. You up for some brunch or smoko? And she'd be like, yep, no worries. And I'll come home and I'll cook a feed of bacon or snags or eggs and stuff like that. And we'll have a feed together, and then we might smash out some bookwork for a few hours, and then I'll 2:30 I might rip out and see where jobs are at, see what we've got to organise for the next few days for deliveries, and keep on top of things. Or you might catch up with clients and all that sort of thing. But I guess the other, not only just getting my health and my head in the game, the other big thing I realised too, and I listened to the podcast a fair bit too, was the self-made myth, was actually how much Tash used to actually do in the business, or she still does. She never stopped. Because I used to say to people, she's a bookkeeper, but all I do is invoice, I quote, I do the contracts, I check the job costings. She does all the BASs, the tax preps, pays, work cover, super, entering, the whole accounting program. She does all that, and she's bloody amazing at it. Because I engaged a bookkeeper thinking that Tash was going to run off into the sunset with some other bloke, and I hit the panic button and I engaged a bookkeeper, and she's like, your wife did all this? And I'm like, yeah, as far as I know. And because I wasn't even, I had no fucking clue how much she'd done. She's like, she was doing a fuckload of work. I said, well, she still is, but I don't know what she's going to do, because I didn't know where we were going to be at in a few months. And that's when it started to hit home in me. And I actually sat her down one day, because we were sharing the kids at the time. And I'm like, I told her what this lady had said, and I'm like, wow, Hannah, I said, I'm sorry for not actually acknowledging you and how much and appreciating you, how much you are doing and you do every day. And that, yeah, almost reduced her to tears because she'd never heard it from me before, you know. And then as the journey continued with HPF and I started to get my head in the game and things were starting to shine, I guess, you know, I was starting to dominate again in my game because there were days when I couldn't even go to work. And I was that fucked. Just mentally, and that there. And and Tash started to notice that, and you know, and I'd ring her through the day. I'd be like, "Hey, I'm at this job, you know, what are you up to?" And she'd be like, "Oh, righty, yeah." And you know, she started to get a bit surprised that I'd reached out to her and talked to her and stuff like that. And yeah, and anyway, something clicked one day there. I just thought, you know what, I'm gonna, because we were still living apart. This is going back. Might have been June, late May, early June, something like that. And actually, no, it might have been late June. Yeah. I'd said to her, "You want to go on a date?" And she's like, "Oh, okay." And I'd already started the, you know, I was already with you, Alex, and stuff like that. And Tash and I had gone out on a date. It was really good. I was telling her a fair bit about the journey I was on and stuff like that, and I could tell she was very skeptical. You know, whether she didn't quite believe I was actually capable of change and stuff like that. And yeah, anyway, we continued on, and we had 2 or 3 more dates, and we'd had some tickets booked for different things that were family things. You know, months and months before anything had happened. And anyway, they were coming up, and I said to her, "Listen," I said, "I don't want to take anyone else to these fucking things." I said, "I want to take you and the kids." All right. And she's like, "Yeah, rightio." And yeah, we went to them, and I guess we just continued day by day and week by week, getting closer and closer. I continued listening to, you know, I guess my routine now has become, any spare minute I get where I'm driving or I'm in a machine, I'll listen to a podcast. You know, there's a couple of hundred of them there, and I think from the very first one, I think I'm up to 120 something that I've listened to religiously, one after another. Sometimes I do jump to the recent ones and go from there, and but they're unreal to listen to. I started to encourage Tash to listen to a couple of them, and she did, and she found them so moving as well, especially like the one with you and your wife, Alex, and a couple other different ones. And yeah, and she's found them unreal. And yeah, it's what's her name? And she did her fair share of research when I told her about HPF too, because she'd never heard of it, and all that. And she actually said to you, I think, when you rang me when I was in Brisbane with Tash, she'd just come out of hospital, and I told you she was in the car with me. We were taking her somewhere. And her words, you'd asked her how she's found the change in me since joining HPF, and her words were, "It's like a miracle," you know. And I'd never heard those words come out of her mouth, you know. Not since the kids were born, anyway.
She was very enthusiastic that you'd done the program, mate. That's for sure.
yeah. Still is.
Yes.
She, and you know, the other night she was saying we were having some deep talks because it made, in all honesty, 20 fucking years together. I reckon if you calculated or tallied up the amount of conversations we'd had, and I'm talking deep conversations we'd had either about each other, about the relationship, not about the kids, just about meaningful relationship stuff, I reckon in the last 19 and a half years, say, it wouldn't have equated up to a fucking week. You know what I mean? Where now we can have full-on, deep, solid, meaningful discussions and conversations that'll go for fucking hours, you know, and you don't get bored because it's like it's almost like her and I are a new start now. It's you know, it's phenomenal. Like, I'll be honest with you, the sex is off tap. It's unreal, and you know, it's we just can't get enough of each other. You know, it's full on. There's a lot of, you know, just, it's kind of like a new relationship. There's flirting through the day, whether it be phone calls, FaceTimes, text messages. There's a lot of passion. You know. We help each other out. We're an unreal dynamic now. You know, I can be packing up, you know, on the other side of town, you know, and I'll ring her. I'll be like, "Hey, just jumped in the truck, heading home. need any groceries, bottle of milk, what do you need? And she'll yep, that'd be great. Or no, come home and I'll help her cook. And I let her know, I've got a bit to do outside before I head in. She's like, no problem, I've got it sorted, all that sort of stuff. So it's it's a phenomenal dynamic now.
It's incredible. When I look at this, Ren, I've just written a few little notes too. How often we don't just keep things, like for a lot of guys, they just got to freshen it up a little bit. Like what you're talking about, it's like you're starting over again. But a lot of the times they'll either do exactly the same thing or nothing, and it just becomes dull. But it's not like you have to create 550 different ways that you're going to talk to Tash. It's just making sure there's A, some variety, and B, just keeping it fresh, keeping in touch with each other. There are different stages and phases of relationships, but essentially, just because it gets older doesn't mean it can't still be exciting. And I guess the words that I've got here is ignite, motivate, inspire. Like, think about your training regime. Think about your nutrition, your training, your mindset, dialing in the coaching sessions here, your work, your business, all these different things. A, you've got to do something to get a result straight away. And B, there's got to be some sort of continued commitment to drive that result, to continually motivate you. Like if you didn't get paid for your work, like you did 3 jobs, 5 jobs, 12 jobs, and no one's giving you any money, you'd be like, what the fuck's happening? There's no result, no transaction. Well, same with marriages, man. So guys just assume, we say take it for granted, but they just assume that, should be right, everything's okay. But deep down, both the man and the woman aren't happy, or they're holding back, and they've got this resentment because they're suppressing things. And at the end of the day, man, like even that, like what you've done, and credit to you and to Tash, like I think I said that in the car as well, with her when we're chatting, credit to both of you for igniting, motivating, inspiring each other to start to invest into this again. Because it is just something that's in the air. It's like I talk about that organism, and it dies if you don't feed it. It starves to death. But you can't feed it though, Ren, what it needs if you don't have. This is why people, like, this isn't a fitness program, what we do, and I've said that fucking enough times, so I'm not going to bring it up again. But one of the elements is absolutely energy, like what Ren was talking about. Your nutrition, your training, your morning and night routines. If you don't dial that in, A, you don't have control over yourself for the day, and B, it's actually a sign of a lack of respect. If you don't have self-respect, Ren, how the fuck are you going to win your wife over? You're not, are you?
That's right.
It's why you need to give to yourself. You need to invest in yourself and apply some effort in any area. For men, primarily, physical's really, it's actually quite easy and direct. Training, nutrition, staying on point. Business, yes, but is it a means to an end if you're not actually looking after or involving your wife or your family, or making sure that doesn't hinder when you do come home? Yes, it is. It's going to hurt you. It will lead to an end. But that's what I love about what I've seen with you most, man. And I don't mean that to be rude to you or anyone else, but you might look at it and go, no, I respected myself before, Al. I'm like, yeah, well, maybe you did, but did you respect yourself as much as you needed to be that version that you needed to for everyone? Maybe not. But what are some of the best? I mean, I remember I've got here actually a couple of the Post-it notes from Tash that you shared with me. It's awesome. Thank you for changing, becoming a better man. Love, Tash. Thank you for being awesome. Just be yourself with me. I love you for being a good person. And obviously Ren's, shared some other private things with me, but it's just epic to see, mate, both sides of the story, not just me working with you and you being part of HPF. What do you think are the biggest changes with this, like with yourself and with Tash, but then also, because you mentioned some examples with the kids and what they're now getting
it's unreal. Like, I was never in tune with how Tash felt. Like, if she was a bit overwhelmed with her day, with the kids, or with work, or if I was feeling insecure, or if she was feeling insecure in herself, or whatever, I was not there for her. I was not sensing it. I was not feeling it. Where now it's phenomenal how both of us are so in tune with each other. Because look, I'm only human. I even after things have gotten real good with us, I still have me down days occasionally. You get that fucking voice in your head that's telling you, you're not good enough, or this or that, and some days that voice, not so much now, but some days that voice can get fucking loud in your own head. And Tash is so up with picking if I'm having a bit of a quiet day, or I'm a bit down, or I haven't checked in with her, like normally I check in with her around smoko time, just see how her day's going, how the kids went off to school, all that sort of thing. she'll be like, "How you doing? Everything all right?" And that sort of thing, and vice versa. I do the same with her, and and we're there for each other. If we sense that we're a bit off or a bit flat, we'll talk to each other, and it's phenomenal. Like but the rest of the day seems to go really well. You've got that off your chest. You've dealt with that demon, or she's helped me put that uneasiness or insecurity to rest, and go from there. It's what a real good dynamic should be, I guess. And in all honesty, look, I'm so looking forward to the future now. You can't take anything for granted. I've learned too. Like I took her for granted forever. Leading up to what happened, I never thought she'd ever leave. But yeah, I know not to take Tash for granted now, or my kids or anything like that. And I need to give back to them just as much as you put into anything, your business. If you want something to prosper, you got to give back. You know what I mean? And yeah, little things like whether it be gifts or time alone, or vacations or whatever it may be. You know what I mean? Just giving back and reinvesting in not just myself, but in the relationship, in the family. Making them all feel very loved and very, very worthy, and taken care of, and all that sort of stuff. So they don't drift away from us or anything like that, or from each other. No, yeah. It's very important.
It's powerful stuff, man. Like it's what we've spoken about, you and me, with stability. Like you're creating stability for your children, stability for Tash, your wife, probably even stability, like you mentioned in brief examples, for your workers or colleagues. That's what leadership is, man. You want a high level of leadership. It's handling your own shit on top of helping other people through theirs, and that's a really powerful thing, man. That you should be proud of. But also, when it comes to taking things for granted, it's crazy how easily and how quickly we can slip into that. But how old are you, Ren?
42 now.
Yeah, mate. So the averages of life say you're going to be fucking dead in 40 years. So at the end of the day, like, do you and I or anyone really have anything we should be taking for granted? The answer is no, man. Like we shouldn't be taking anything for granted.
I was of the mentality, because that's, we've got a caravan, brand new one coming. We had one a few months ago. We just sold, and she'd be like, "Oh, we should go traveling and do something, see a bit of this country." And like, Tasha's parents, the poor buggers, have done it. They've been around, and they're in their late 60s, early 70s, and they're struggling to do a big trail or a big hike. My parents surely aren't of the ability to do it now either. And it's through all this stuff and different revelations I've had through this journey that I'm like, you know what? There's more to life than fucking work. There's you don't have to be the richest man in the cemetery, you know what I mean, or any of this sort of thing. Let's give back to each other, and let's enjoy ourselves. Hey.
Your children, what are they? 15, 13, 9. They'll only be that age once, right? That'll change next year. That'll change. You don't have to wait 10 years. That'll change in a year. Just like mine have, and everyone's does. Great stuff, mate. Like what, I guess upon reflecting, and then we'll chart the course for what the future looks like. But upon reflecting, like, how did it make you feel when you look back on, the family walking on eggshells and the girls, having that level of a sense of unknowing with the old version of Ren, now that you're version 2.0?
When I look back at how I used to be, I'm very disappointed in myself, rather disgusted, actually. Not at all what I would want one of my future husbands of my daughters, one of my daughter's future husbands to be like, or treat them. That's not the environment I would want for anyone. It's fucked. Like you want a happy home. You want you want your kids when you get home to be happy to run out and cuddle you when you hop out the ute, or your wife to come out and see you and give you a big cuddle, and a kiss, not freaking out inside or just waiting to see, what mood is this cunt going to be in when he walks in the door, what do we like today? And that sort of shit, so it's, it was shit. It's not a healthy environment for any family.
And it's one that'll never happen again, mate, because here he is, Ren 2.0, which is amazing. One thing I will mention too, Rennie, I'm really glad, mate, that for the first time, this is the first, you talk about podcast episodes, right? Like and you've gone through a fair chunk. You're up to 120 and you bounced around a little bit. Mate, you should check out number 214. I'm sure you'll listen to that a few times. That is an absolute perler. Do you know which one that is?
One of the most recent ones.
It's the one you're me doing now.
Oh, fuck. Right. There you go.
David, yeah, well, I'm glad this is the first episode out of 214 now, Ren, where I'm not the person who's said the most swear words. You've dropped the C-bomb about 6 times, mate, and you've said fuck about 38 times. I'm like, yes.
Oh, who's counting? No.
If anyone's got a problem with my swearing, fucking speak to Ren. He'll sort you out.
Johnny Kirkland will have a drama.
Oh, yes, JK. Nah, he was an awesome episode too. Oh, JK, that was unreal. A lot of knowledge and wisdom like yourself and every other man who's been through the journey. When we speak about that, though, can't wait for the future and whatnot. I guess what would be, well, you've painted a picture of that and you're moving forward, which is going to be, like you said, like it is exciting with what's next. But also, one of the things we love, which is why you said yes to this as well, Ren, is this is a service that we're providing to men who maybe not have been in the position where they are at the other end, like yourself, men who maybe might be right in the middle of it, maybe men who they don't know, but that's coming, right? And they're not sure what to do. But I guess in your wisdom and your results and experience, man, what would be your advice to fathers, like fathers who might be stuck in the rut, having marital issues, they haven't got their shit together, they don't feel like they're high-performing fathers. And fatherhood is a symbol for life, service, family, yourself. They may be doing well in business and making money and, like you said, striving to be the richest man in the cemetery. But what would be, I guess, a couple of key mindset pieces, revelations, or points of advice for the man who might be listening to this who is struggling at the moment, but he's actually not on the inside yet?
All right. Well, my advice to them was, I thought I had life by the balls, right? We had finances were good, had all the toys, all that sort of thing. But I knew I wasn't happy in myself, okay? And it wasn't until I joined HPF and they made me aware of how important it was to invest in yourself. And it took me a little while to work out what the fuck that meant, invest in yourself. And yeah, it once it clicked, a lot of things became a lot clearer. It gave me the ability to look at myself and see who I was and who I'd been. And I'll tell you what, I wasn't happy with that. How I treated my family, my wife, workers, friends, all that sort of thing. I thought, I've got to change things up, something fierce here. So it's helped me grow as a person, as an individual, as a father, as a husband, all that sort of thing, as an employer. Anyone who's contemplating it, if you're in a rut, if you feel disconnected, even if your wife's already left, it ain't over. You know what I mean? Don't give up. Join HPF, get off the fence and jump in, and and see what a better person you can become, or what a better man you can become, because we're only as good as what we have a crack at, and you got to give back to yourself, and then it seems to all just happen around you. You said to me a while back, Alex, you're becoming the chief now in your family, and it's dead true. You become that driven, focused man who's got his shit together. But I can stand up and be that Viking if I need to be, and be the assertive man and make a decision, or be the protector. But hey, I can still roll around on the floor with the kids and muck around and be the panda too, and all that sort of stuff, and have a tickle and stir them all up, probably when I shouldn't, when they're going to bed, but hey, they'll be right, and all that sort of thing. So I never used to do that sort of thing, and look, some guys might be lucky enough that this sort of thing just happens, but I think there's a hell of a lot of blokes out there that that need the assistance. And I think it's, from what I'm noticing too, and I've become very aware, when you're in business for yourself and you don't want to fail and you want to reach a certain goal, you put all these expectations on yourself, because I've seen it happen in my industry, and even like agriculture and stuff like that. We live in a very agricultural, solid area. It's and I've seen young fellas around my age, or younger, having a good go. And at this moment, around the place, their marriages are falling apart, and something's got to give. It's very hard when you're so driven to succeed, to get that work-life balance right. that's so different. I had it all fucked up, you know, when prior to HPF, where now I'm like, no, you know, it's on the level now. It's where it should be, you know, and communication. Fuck me, that is so critical. Talking to your wife, to your kids, you know, it's the most critical thing ever. If you've got issues, worries, concerns, speak up. Don't bottle it all up, you know, because I was probably the worst communicator on earth, you know, I reckon, prior to this. It's so important. No, phenomenally important. No.
Solid stuff, mate. Like, talking leads to clarity, which means you know where you stand. That's really important, man, especially for guys, like you said, who are hungry. They want to drive their business and create outcomes in what either A, they've been conditioned to believe, or B, it's a self-driving thing. You know, I want to make sure that I'm pushing where I can in family, self, and service. But it really is incredible, Ren, how you've brought the whole package together, which is what we entail. And when I say the whole package, it's not a case of, hey, men, you know, you have it all or have everything. Just have those three areas fucking squared away at a high level, you know. And a lot of guys, I get it, you know, they may not have invested in themselves before. Here's a different way to paint the picture. When we're talking about invest in yourself, let's put it a different way. If where you're currently at with your life is a place where you desire better outcomes, you need to fucking get better. It's that simple. Like, you're not good enough. Get fucking better. I'm not saying you're not good enough to me. You're not good enough in your own life. You're not good enough to the standards you fucking know you should rise up to, and you can rise up to. It's that simple. Like, it's not invest in yourself. I want to go walk on coal and super soakers and techno music and pray and all these different things. And all these different things, which may individually work. I don't know. But at the end of the day, we're not here just to hype you up for a weekend and then send you off. This is a journey. But at the end of the day, if you're not good enough to reach the outcomes that you desire, you need to fucking get better. That's what I mean by investing in yourself. You need to become better. You need to become a better man, a better father, a better husband, and a better business owner. So hopefully that clears the air. When I say invest in yourself, it's just a really easy thing to talk about. But for those who aren't clear on it, that's what we mean. If you want a different outcome, you need to be different. You've got to be a different person. Is that a fair statement, Ren? I mean, you're a powerful businessman, and this isn't for the weak-hearted either. Like, this is for, you know, this is for men who are strong. They are successful in some areas. They are powerful men, but they've dropped the ball because power comes in a few different ways, not just money or business or cutting men down. The fiery Maltese. I'm half Italian. I grew up with Landilo. That's right near me, mate. But I grew up near Adenza Park and everything, and lots of farming, and we had lots of Maltese and Italian, very fiery. I could just picture you right now cutting someone like me down in half who didn't do the job properly. But
lots of shouting, arms waving, fucking eyes blaring, and all that sort of stuff. You know,
lots of zucchini throwing and cucumber stabbing, and
going everywhere.
Yeah, but is that a fair statement, man? Like, when we talk about investing in yourself, it's not that you're not good enough, friend. It's like, okay, well, I want my life to be better. Well, you know, I guess I've got to be better too. I mean, it's pretty.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Yep, 100%. It's just how it's got to be, and it was not easy for me to for that to be accepted in myself. I'm like, fucking got to be better. Like, fuck me. All I've ever done is work, and you know, I'm not a pub goer. I'm not. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I thought in my own head that I was putting my family first. You know what I mean? I'm like, where have I gone so wrong here? But, you know, Tash made a statement to me once there. She said, I don't need a 6-figure bank account. You know, I don't need a flash home. I don't need a new car every couple of years. She said, I don't need the best of everything. She said, all I want is you. I'm like, fuck. Yeah, right, okay. So, you know, I said, and I got on the defense there. I said, so you don't appreciate everything I've done? And she's like, no, I do. She said, but it's coming at the expense of you being with us. She said to me, you know, she's like, we never see you. You're 7 days a week. You're making excuses to go to work. And I was, because I didn't even know I was doing it until I had some revelations through joining HPF. I was making excuses to go to work even when I didn't fucking have to. Because I dominated at work. I was the ruler at work, and I found peace at work because there was no challenge. Where at home, I didn't know how to talk to the kids. I didn't know how to talk to the missus. I didn't know how to open up to her and say, where do you need a hand here, and stuff like that, or really properly open up and say, hey, I'm fucking struggling here, you know. So I just used to take the easy way out and say, I'm going to work. And in myself, I justified that as being a good enough reason to take off and leave them for the day. because I was going to work. You know what I mean? In my own brain, it was justifiable. You know, and she began to resent that. You know, so.
And now that you zoom out, it just becomes so clear, doesn't it, Ren? You're like, okay, I develop these skills, I get better at this, I say yes to this, which means I can say no to that. And it's not that you weren't doing things with good intentions or with the right intention. It's just that life as a whole requires certain skills in certain areas. And when it comes to our wives, so where's the roadmap or the rule book or the we're coming out with a book, Ren. But I mean, for a lot of men before now, where was the book? You know, so credit to you, man. I really appreciate you spending the time. And this is an epic podcast where in this episode, you're really breaking open the whole journey from A to B for yourself, for your wife, for your children, still maintaining your business. And it's just great to share your story as well, Ren. So I appreciate you coming on and sharing it too, mate, for all those fathers out there who are inspired by this to take action and level themselves up, not because we're saying you're not good enough, but because you can and you're living, and that's the gift and the miracle of life. So let's do something with it, right?
That's it. No, family, your marriage, all that sort of stuff. It's too valuable and too precious to throw away. You know, like it's we do work for clients, and I talk to fathers and stuff like that where their families have fallen apart or their marriages have fallen apart. You know, and it's to me, it's too special a thing, you know, to just turn my back on. I wanted to fix it, you know what I mean? But I had to fix myself first, because I guess, you know, growing up for, you know, 17, 18 years at home in a family like I had, you know, where they were just basically all workaholics, you know, and then, getting married, you know, 3-4 years after moving out of home or whatever it was. And then, you know, falling straight back into that role, just driven by, I guess, you know, driven by, you know, just the desire to be successful and provide, rather than have, you know, happiness and love and compassion in a relationship and enjoy life. You know, it's, you just got to get everything lined up or more in tune with your partner. You know what I mean? That, and it was through good communication that I was able to do that, you know, which I developed through HPF, you know, to work out what you both want and what makes you both happy. You know, it's funny. I've had staff, you know, work for me and they've left, they've given notice and I'm like, why are you leaving? You're bloody good at your job. And, you know, you start thinking, am I not paying you enough? And what's the go? And they're like, actually, no, it's not you. It's not the pay. You know, it's, I want to be happy. And I'm like, rightio. I'm like, fucking hell, you know, what's that all about? And I actually said that to Tash, it's going back a few years now, but it clicks now. I get it, you know, and if you're not doing something that is making you happy, fucking change it. You know what I mean? Like, yes, I'm a builder now at the moment, but I know I won't be doing it all my life. Once I find something is going stale and is not giving me the satisfaction in myself or that passion in myself, the spark to keep moving forward, I'll reinvent myself. You know what I mean? I'll channel my energies into a new area. And it's funny, you know, after going down this journey and you know, listening to Sunday charge ups and podcasts and you know, doing the weekly tabs and all that sort of thing, when I can even just sit on a bench, you know, if I'm waiting for one of the kids or Tash to come out of somewhere, and I'll look at couples walking, or you'll overhear them talk, or it might be blokes I work with, and I'm like, they're not happy, they're disconnected. Like, what's going on there? You know, they got issues, you know, and if you get the opportunity to talk to someone and say, hey, you got to work on this, or you got to work together. Don't shut the door on each other. Don't just become housemates that are raising kids that occasionally fuck and then, because what's going to happen is when the kids leave home, you're both going to fucking think you're strangers and you're just going to leave. You know, it's all going to fall apart. You know, and one or two people I have been able to talk to that are friends of ours that I've been able to, you know, not even know that I've helped them. It actually makes me feel good inside, you know, that because they're like, yeah, your advice that you're giving us is really good. You know what I mean? Where less than a year ago, I would have been like, oh, they're in a pickle, I'll just walk away from them, you know, and you know, wouldn't bat an eyelid. Where it's good to help people these days, you know, and just, you know, be a nice person, not be a hard case all the time.
Yes. Yeah. Well spoken. Well spoken, Ren. Very true, man. Very true.
No
thank you again for jumping on, mate. And thank you guys for watching or listening to this episode. I hope you got a lot of value out of it. Another success story. I've got too many podcasts lined up with too many men now, Ren. There's a bit of a backlog because I haven't done this for a while, mate. So we might have to pump it up and just get these rolling out because there's so many special stories, just like yourself, mate. And it's
thanks for the opportunity. It was a little bit daunting. I've never done it before, but hope I haven't bored everyone to tears.
No, you dominate, mate. Throwing out the random curse words, mate, were more than enough to keep us all on the edge of our seat, waiting which one was next. And no, I'm just kidding. It was awesome, mate. It was great. So I hope you guys got a lot of value out of this. And what a solid story. Thank you, Ren.
No, you're right. Thank you, Alex. We'll talk soon.
And that's a wrap. I hope you enjoyed this episode and got some golden nuggets with possibly one or two aha moments as well. If you truly loved and enjoyed what you listened to, then I want to invite you to share this episode with someone who you know needs to hear this. It could be your brother, friends, colleagues, your uncle, even your wife. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that none of us are alone in the hardships we face. But the solution to getting back on top winning can start with a gift from someone else. And that gift could be an episode like this, because another man transformed is another family saved, which is exactly what we're all about. Thriving and winning in life. There is no alternative. It's possible. It has been done. It can be done. So it should be done. I appreciate your support in spreading this message. Cheers, mate.